time for the recap.
We're traveling north to Core from Thresher's Farm. We rested for one evening when the traveler showed up, and Druev brought him back into the group. Turns out he was sort of depressed and thinking about the good old days, I guess, when he was more powerful and seemed to have lost his mojo. But Breaker doesn't really know who the traveler is, so he just thinks he's some random guy and doesn't really know he had any mojo to start with. The next day, we ran into two people who were trying to catch a bird with a human head, and Breaker used fairy fire to make it particularly easy for them to do that. Druev wound up buying the bird for rough trade, whatever is Roughtstold, and they also wound up having an evil puppet, which Druev managed to steal while they were distracted being attacked by Fishay, with Breaker trying to stop him from doing that.
That's why you wrote Torchmaster. He wrote Torchmaster in my email before, and now I'm looking in my notes, and he was the Torchmaster. I was like, well, who the hell is the Torchmaster?
It's your puppet. Your evil puppet. So now we're walking around with two very large bird cages under our arms as we go from place to place. What happened after that? Oh, we came to the cave of Total Morta, who initially said he answers questions, but it turns out he actually grants wishes, sort of, maybe. I forget what everybody got. Fishay got, Breaker had to wish for Fishay, so Fishay wound up getting food being always around him, because that's what Breaker assumed he would want. Ollywell got in contact with the Elven Ancestors, which is, it's nice to have somebody else who hears the Elven Ancestors constantly chatting away. Druev got to be the greatest adventurer of her generation. Roughtstold got his ass kicked out of the cave almost immediately. Breaker asked for more information about who Estelle Getty was and got an autographed picture, but didn't really learn much more about her. But he got a nice personally autographed picture of her now. Breaker assumes since it didn't come with a COA that anybody could have signed this thing. He has no way of knowing the authenticity of this. The traveler got his old life back and disappeared for a while, but then came out of the cave like the rest of us, or appeared outside the cave again, and said that he didn't really get it. So he did not get his wish granted, I suppose. We then made our way to Core, where we came upon a cult that was dressed in golden robes, and Dr. Clarence, also in those robes, was there. He really didn't want to talk about the black spiders and tried to get Breaker to shut up, but Breaker's a little dense, so at first didn't realize what he was trying to get him to not talk about the black spiders. The doctor later explained that the black spiders had infiltrated the whole place because the cult leader has access to what Clarence thinks is a coffin, but is probably an escape pod, like the one in the Brookshire Cathedral. And he was there to study it, so didn't want to leave because he, I guess, didn't have access to it, or at least didn't have enough time to completely study it yet. He then said he would talk to us later on. Fishay hit it off great with the cult leader, the very creepy cult leader, who, as far as Breaker could tell, because Breaker's not that bright, definitely was not talking about eating them all. But he invited Fishay to dinner, and Fishay is not one to say no to dinner invitations. So Fishay went off, and he and the cult leader happily ate someone cooked into a stew that seemed to agree with both of them, and discussed eating Roughtstold either later that night or the next day. I assume Roughtstold will take a little time to cook. The meat's got to be tough. I assume you got to slow cook that shit. And we were all sort of waiting in a side room. I don't know if we were, I mean, I'm sure we were waiting for Fishay to come back. I don't know if we were going to wait there the whole time until we talked to Clarence again or not.
Clarence is the guy you were looking for, right?
Yes, that is Ava's father.
Oh, and something that should be noted. Apparently, Fishay can just telepathically speak to people when he wants to, and just has chosen not to this whole time.
Yep.
It would have made talking so much easier. I don't know why I haven't done it yet.